Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the wild, weird, and wacky world of the Word. Also, wonderful world of the Word. Wonderful because, hey, coming up this week, we have the Christmas story. Christmas? Yeah, like that tree right there? Yeah, we finally got ours up. Hey, come on, give us a break. It was, tough sledding this year. What can I say? Besides, we leave ours up until Easter anyhow. Don't you? No, you don't? Okay. Anyhow, let's get down to it. Yeah, we maybe you'll even be hearing the Christmas story come tomorrow in your church. We are because just before Christmas, either the third Sunday of Advent or the fourth Sunday, we have our annual children's Christmas program during our second service. You know how that all works out, right? All the littlest kids are dressed up like sheep and donkeys and things like that. And then you have the older kids are playing angels and shepherds. Then you have Mary and Joseph, and maybe you might even have some of the other kids playing some other minor parts, throughout the play. Someone's narrating it, or maybe you have a more contemporary story associated with it. Oh, there's a lot of ways to do it, but for the most part, angels, sheep, shepherds, three wise men. Three wise men? What are they doing there in the Christmas story? They're not in the Christmas story in the Bible. Did you know that? Isn't that wild, weird, and wacky? The three wise men are not in the Christmas story because they come about 2 years later. Yeah, they missed out on the first Christmas and the second one for that matter. Um, but that's another story in and of itself. We just kind of put them right in there with that. But yeah, there's only two gospels that have the Christmas story, Matthew and Luke, and we tend to kind of pull them together as one, which is really, it's okay for the Sunday school Christmas program, but it's really not okay when you're doing a serious study of each of the gospels. The reason why is those Christmas stories were put there for a very particular reason. And that particular reason was to show just who Jesus is. All right, Matthew wants to show us that Jesus is so much better than this guy named Moses, who was an awesome guy, an awesome person, inspired by God to do mighty things um, in his life for the people of Israel. Jesus is the new Moses, but the better Moses. That's what Matthew's getting across to his audience. Luke, well, he wants to show that Jesus just isn't here for the Jewish people. Jesus is here for every single person who ever has and is and will be inhabiting planet Earth. And we see that marked out in quite a few different ways. Even we have that kind of insinuated in our birth narrative. Now, there are a lot of other things that are kind of woven in and out of the stories of Matthew and Luke, but all four gospels, they finally get right down to the main gist of what they're about, and that is Jesus' life, ministry among us, his death, and his resurrection. And I like the way Mark does it. The beginning of the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's some guy named John shouting out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. That's the beginning. Oh, no, well, let's go to John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was there right from the start? Yep. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, as it says a little bit later. Hmm. But come on. This is what we want, right? This time of year, we want the baby Jesus in the cradle, in the manger, because there is no room in the inn. In the inn, you mean like Holiday Inn or Hampton Inn or Marriott or no, not those kind of inns. That word inn, it's translated that way in our New Testament, really is nothing more than the upper chamber of somebody's house. When Mary and Joseph went to Bethlehem to be enrolled so that, you know, they could be taxed, I'm sure that's why it was being done. The census was being taken. They went to a relative's house there, and in your house, you lived in the upper portion of the house because down below is where the animals stayed. This is wintertime. They came in for the night, and that's where they would stay to keep warm. Mary is having a baby. There's no privacy in the upper part of the house. So, where does she have her baby? Down amongst the animals. You go on. Didn't bother her one bit, and probably wouldn't have bothered anyone to have a baby down there because, come on, that was a part of their life. We are a little more separated from our animals, except my cat and my dog, or should I say, my cats and my dogs jumping all over you. But no, no, that that's part of the wild and weird and wacky part of the story. Okay, they knew what they were getting into when they went to Bethlehem. And when it said she gave birth and laid him in a manger because there's no room in the inn, there's no room upstairs. They had to do it downstairs. Got that? Kind of wild, weird, and wacky, but that's okay. And what about this with the shepherds out in the fields watching their flocks? And an angel appears to them. Shepherds, they're kind of like, let's just be honest, they're kind of like the scum of the earth as far as some people in Jesus' day were concerned. They were at the lower end of the social scale. They're smelly, they're dirty, they're stinky. We don't want them around us. We'll get our sheep one way or the other, but we don't want them. Um, Besides, most of them were just hired hands anyhow. And Jesus even uses that in some of his parables, right? Yeah, he does that later on. So the whole birth story, we have it so sanitized and so cleaned up, but it's a story that's messy and it's crazy and it's one that is it fitting for the Son of God, the King of the universe, to be born into the world in this way? No way. But that's exactly the way it happens. Our God, born into the sloppiness and messiness of humanity in a very sloppy and messy way that we're all born into this world. Yep, that's exactly it. Think of it in those terms. Jesus coming as you, as me, living like you, like me, like everyone else, a human being with feelings and experiencing aches and pains. And we don't think about that. But that's the wonder of Christmas. That's the wonder of the incarnation. God with us in our flesh, seeing the world through our eyes, but also seeing the world through God's eyes. And that's what he desperately wants you and me to do. And that is why the scriptures that we have are so wild, weird, and wacky, because they reach out and grab you and me and ask us to see the world with God's eyes, with God's eyes, with Jesus' eyes, and to reach out in love to all those around us, even as this babe in Bethlehem will grow up and reach out in love. Love so deep that it took him to a cross in which he died, a cross that didn't have the final word, because the final word was life resurrected life, new life that is promised to you and to me. New life that starts right now. That's why Mark's gospel says this is the beginning of the good news. Jesus is just the beginning. He's the one that brings it. He's the one that lives us. He's the one that dispenses it to us. And now you and I get to be a part of it. I think the Christmas story that we have is more than just all the decorations on that tree. And it's even more than just a baby lying in a manger. It's about love. Love so powerful that no matter what kind of messiness we find ourselves in, this is going to be an awesome time for you and for me to be alive. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of awful stuff that happens, a lot of terrible stuff, and a lot of fearful things that are happening, especially with our pandemic that's sweeping across the nation, where we are quickly going to be approaching 1 million people in the United States who have died from this awful, awful COVID pandemic. 1 million. We're not that far away from it. They think we'll be hitting that number in the very, very near future. That's a scary thought, too, isn't it? But we live as people of love who look ahead in hope. And we say, God, help us get through it. God, be with us as we travel through this dark valley of the shadow of death. God, we know that in Jesus we have perfect hope, perfect faith, perfect trust, and a perfect way to live. It is that way of love. I don't know about you, but I'm getting excited. I'm nowhere near ready for the Christmas day as we often celebrate it. The gift giving and the wrapping and the decorating and all that stuff. Still got a lot more to do. It's only a week away. But you know what? I'm ready for it. And I hope you are too. God's blessings be with you this day.